Hello, everybody. What a wonderful bunch of nice, beautiful morning people. Thank you all for coming out today, especially the evening people who pushed through and woke up at 6 in the morning. Yeah, okay, I feel you. Getting to know Creative Mornings has been a real delight for me. As you have noticed, I am not French. I'm Canadian, which today remains a free country. More on that later. Mais je parle juste un petit peu en français, hein? And it's a French that I learned in glorious ponton, in street gyms, in the line at Franprix, in the waiting room at the dentist, or crammed into a stranger's armpit on Metro 13. And although my accent makes my students laugh, they made me, okay? Language is the first layer to talk about today, and I am just a shadow of this culture in the way, perhaps, I will have a shadow for the duration of this talk in the form of Willem.
Alors, je vais tricher un petit peu sur ma traduction, parce qu'il m'a donné le texte en avance. Mais tout d'abord, je ne suis pas vraiment français, je suis canadien, qui pour l'instant reste un pays libre. J'ai appris le français à Pantin, la Glorieuse, dans les gyms au parc, dans la file du Franprix, dans les salles d'attente du dentiste, ou écrasé sous les aisselles d'un inconnu dans la ligne 13. Mon accent fait rire mes étudiants, mais c'est eux qui m'ont forcé. Le langage est donc notre première couche, et moi je ne suis qu'une ombre de cette culture française, un peu comme l'ombre qui va m'accompagner pendant tout le long de ce tour.
You're good at this. We should collab more often. Our theme
Il a remercié aussi, au cas où c'était pas clair, les gens qui sont plutôt du soir, et c'était un plaisir de découvrir CreativeMornings. Je n'ai pas tout à fait traduit le bienvenue.
Our theme today is layers, which makes my brain race in all directions, but reminds me after living in Paris for about 7 years, I started volunteering with the Order of Malta, which is this group, a charity that organizes marauds. So they basically have these vans, the volunteers get in the van, they drive through Paris, they're giving food, they're making coffee, and they're giving basic humanity to the street, people who live on the street. So let's talk about layers. The left eye watches a hungry man too proud to ask for a banana. The right eye watches dilettantes in glittering shirts and dresses lift glasses of champagne. The left nostril fills with the stink of piss. The right nostril is all warm, buttery croissant. The left ear echoes with my harsh voice. The right ear is soothed by the soothing velvet sounds of Willem.
Parlons du thème d'aujourd'hui. Le thème d'aujourd'hui, c'est les couches, les niveaux, layers. Et ça a fait bouillonner mon cerveau dans plein de directions différentes. Et ça m'a rappelé à un moment donné qu'après 7 ans à Paris, j'ai été bénévole avec l'Ordre de Malte, donc une association caritative qui sont assez connus pour leur maraude. Et c'est une équipe de bénévoles qui saute dans un van et qui sillonne les rues de Paris, dans l'ombre de ces toits dorés, pour distribuer du café, des sandwichs et un peu d'humanité aux sans-abri de la ville. Alors parlons de couches. L'œil gauche regarde un homme affamé, l'œil trop fier pour demander une banane. L'œil droit voit les dilettantes en chemise et robes scintillantes lever leur coupe de champagne. La narine gauche se remplit de puanteur de pisse, la narine droite de croissants bien beurrés, tout chaud. L'oreille gauche résonne de ma voix brutale, l'oreille droite est bercée par les sons veloutés de l'île.
In our discussion of layers, I won't need slides of cakes or cross-sections of the body or a mountain split open for you to see them. We know, for example, that the French under the bridge in Ponton is a different layer than the French at the Académie Française. We know the difference between the future politicians at Sciences Po, where was my buddy from Sciences Po, and the famous sex workers of the Bois de Boulogne. We know the difference between the elite artisans, engineers, and artists who planted the seeds of culture here that it might become the capital of the capital of culture, and the wretches under the overpass at Aubervilliers who make us so uncomfortable we can only call them SDF, sans domicile fixé, and when you turn someone into an acronym, is it still possible to feel pity? I wonder what Willem thinks.
Pour parler de couches, je n'ai pas forcément besoin d'images de gâteaux, de coupes anatomiques ou de montagnes fendues en deux pour en examiner les couches géologiques. Par exemple, on sait très bien que le français parlé sous le pont de Pantin est d'un autre niveau que celui de l'Académie française. On sait qu'il y a un monde entre les futurs politiciens qui étudient à Sciences Po, que j'enseigne, et les célèbres travailleuses du sexe du Bois de Boulogne. On sait faire la différence entre les artisans, les ingénieurs et les artistes qui ont planté ici les graines de la culture pour faire de cette ville la capitale du monde, et les misérables sous le périph' à Aubervilliers qui nous mettent tellement mal à l'aise qu'on ne peut que les appeler SDF, sans domicile fixe. Et quand on transforme une personne en acronyme, est-ce qu'on peut encore ressentir de la pitié? Je me demande ce qu'en pense Willem.
Just to be clear, my talk isn't about income inequality, nor is it designed to shame you for enjoying a boeuf bourguignon, a fireplace, a glass of champagne. Honestly, I'm here today to talk about love, because I think love is the ultimate layered thing. And it begins with this love we have for strangers. It increases through our friends and our family. It rises to some crescendo when a mother lifts a car off her trapped child. Those of you who have God might argue that faith is the highest love. But for me, it's a German fashion designer and tailor I encountered not that long ago. We met in the typical French fashion over raclette. And how the salty cheese mixed in our mouths when we first kissed. And though stripping off my clothes in front of you now would be an extremely effective demonstration of the theme of layers, love keeps me clothed. But I can't speak for Willem.
Pour être clair, je ne suis pas ici pour parler d'inégalité de revenus. Je ne veux pas vous culpabiliser non plus d'aimer un bon bœuf bourguignon, un bon feu de cheminée ou une bonne coupe de champagne. Non, en vrai, je suis venu ici pour parler d'amour. Parce que je pense que l'amour est l'ultime sujet de plusieurs niveaux ou plusieurs couches. Ça commence par cet amour qu'on a pour des étrangers qu'on ne connaît pas. Ça a grandi à travers nos amis, notre famille, et ça atteint un sommet même quand une mère soulève un bus pour sauver son enfant qui est coincé dessous. Et ceux d'entre vous qui croient en Dieu diraient que la foi peut-être est le niveau suprême de l'amour. Mais pour moi, c'est une styliste allemande que j'ai rencontrée il n'y a pas si longtemps. Et c'était vraiment une rencontre très française autour d'une raclette. Et comment le fromage fondu s'est mêlé dans nos bouches pendant les premiers baisers. Bon, même si le déshabillé devant vous serait une exploration extrêmement efficace du niveau des couches, l'amour me garde habillé. Mais je ne peux pas en dire autant que Willem.
Let's talk about family. And the layers of love, it's a good place to start. Growing up, things weren't always stable at home, and I ended up moving between my parents a lot, and I was staying at a foster home for a while. Maybe the angriest kid you ever saw. My dad was a smart man on one level, but pride made him a fool. In the face of criticism like, "Hey Dad, you were a real drunken ass last night," he found it much easier to tell a beautiful story than to take the feedback, make lifestyle changes, grow. Sometimes the stories would fail completely. I'd say, "Hey Dad, you smashed a bunch of dishes on me last night." He'd say, "No, I didn't," or "You're making that up," or "That wasn't me." So there were a few decades of my life I craved a stable presence, someone trustworthy, a Willem.
Parlons un peu de la famille. Parmi toutes les couches de l'amour, commençons par là. En grandissant, chez moi, ce n'a pas été toujours un endroit particulièrement stable. Et j'ai beaucoup bougé entre mes deux parents. Et pendant un temps, j'ai même été placé en famille d'accueil. Et j'étais un enfant vraiment très en colère, beaucoup de colère en moi. Mon père était un homme qui était assez intelligent, à certains égards, mais son orgueil en même temps faisait de lui vraiment un idiot. Face à une critique comme « Hey papa, hier soir, t'étais vraiment gros con, t'étais tout bourré », il trouvait bien plus facile de raconter une belle histoire que de grandir, prendre ça en retour, de réfléchir à son comportement, changer ses habitudes ou évoluer. Parfois, ces histoires échouaient complètement. « Hey papa, tu m'as balancé une pile d'assiettes hier soir !»« Mais non, t'inventes, c'était pas moi. » Alors pendant plusieurs décennies de ma vie, j'ai cherché une présence stable, quelqu'un de fiable derrière moi, comme Willem.
Still, the power of bullshit always fascinated me, and I was drawn to people of charm. Social Napoleons who could talk their way out of impossible corners, rally the troops again and again, even resurrect an entire army. French history is fucking amazing, by the way, by strength of bullshit alone. And if you want to talk about layers, welcome to trauma. The way it keeps us circling around, drone-like, repeating the events over and over until we can break free. My father falls off the bar stool again and again, reaches for his last drink countless times, clutches his chest in an endless loop, and dies. And so our wounds repeat themselves as if each of us had our own Willem.
Mais malgré tout, le pouvoir de raconter n'importe quoi, du bullshit, m'a toujours fasciné. J'étais attiré par les charmeurs, des Napoléons sociaux capables de se sortir des situations les plus impossibles en racontant n'importe quoi, de rallier les troupes encore et encore, de ressusciter peut-être une armée tout entière. Parce qu'au passage, par ailleurs, l'histoire de la France est absolument incroyable, uniquement par la force de raconter des histoires. Et si vous voulez parler de couches, bienvenue dans le traumatisme. Le truc qui m'a fait tourner en rond comme un drone, revivant encore et encore et encore les mêmes événements jusqu'à ce qu'on parvienne à s'en libérer. Mon père tombe encore et encore du tabouret du bar, il tend la main vers son dernier verre, un nombre incalculable de fois, il porte la main à sa poitrine et meurt. Et nos blessures se répètent comme si chacun d'entre nous, son propre vilaine. Ouais, c'est ça. Pardon.
Still,
Yeah.
I remember the play, the fun. My brother and I tied Dad to a lawn chair back at the cottage, back before the story started to fray. There was like 27 belts and 20 meters of rope all wrapped around my dad, and he couldn't budge at all, just strain with his muscles bulging because he was a strong man, my dad, with hard fists, and he would beg for his power source. Just get me a beer, bud, he'd say. One beer and I'd escape easy. So we'd dribble a few drops into his mouth like a mama bird, glub, 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 and he'd throw off the ropes and rise triumphant, and even my mother would clap. And that was how we learned to cheer for beer. But here in France, we learned instead to pine for wine. Right, Willem?
Mais malgré tout, je me souviens aussi des moments de fun, des moments de jeu. Mon frère et moi, on avait attaché mon père une fois à une chaise de jardin au chalet, avant que les histoires ne commencent toutes à se fissurer. Il devait y avoir, on avait mis 27 ceintures et peut-être 20 mètres de cordes enroulées autour de lui, super serrées, pour qu'il ne puisse pas bouger du tout. Il pouvait à peine contracter ses muscles, il avait les veines gonflées, parce qu'il était quand même fort, mon père, avec des poings durs, et il nous suppliait d'avoir sa source de pouvoir. Allez, juste une bière et je me libère, tu vas voir facilement. Alors on versait juste quelques gouttes dans sa bouche, comme une maman oiseau, glou glou glou. Et il arrachait les cordes, se dressait triomphant, et ma mère applaudissait. C'est comme ça qu'on a appris à applaudir la bière. Mais ici en France, on apprend plutôt à rêver du vin, n'est-ce pas, Dylan?
Okay, let's take a little transition here away from family, dangerous zone, back into friendship. And I did promise a love story, not this toppling of sacred cows like wine. I understand that you guys are here for your monthly dose of inspiration, okay? So let's go deeper. Since family was a broken thing, I made better friendships. Since I served in the military for a long time and was constantly surrounded by dudes, because women are complicated, I mostly loved men. No one disagrees. I lived with 2 dudes after my dad died, for example. Then I moved in with another friend after his dad died. And truthfully, as these experiences were all a little hazy in my mind since I'd graduated from beer onto rum, and not everyone is as well adjusted as Willem.
Mais je vous ai promis une histoire d'amour, pas un massacre de la famille, de vaches sacrées, et puis vous êtes là quand même pour votre dose mensuelle d'inspiration. Donc on va pas en rester là, on va parler d'autre chose. Parlons un peu de l'amitié, parce que la famille c'était un truc assez brisé. J'ai tissé des amitiés plus profondes suite à ça. Et j'ai été aussi longtemps dans l'armée, constamment entouré de gars, quoi. Et puisque les femmes étaient assez compliquées, j'ai surtout aimé les hommes, finalement. Et après la mort de mon père, j'ai vécu avec 2 potes. J'ai emménagé chez un autre ami après la mort de son père. Donc franchement, par contre, ces années étaient un peu floues parce que j'étais passé de la bière au rhum quand j'étais dans la marine. Et tout le monde n'est pas aussi bien ajusté que Ville.
Recently, my love took me to an exhibit at the Louvre on the theme of fools. I think it might still be there today. Every time we saw a shady corner, I tried to steal a smooch. On one hand, the fool is the wise one who wears the idiot's mask. On the other hand, you can be born a natural fool, lack the mind for subtleties, and so see things as they are. One exhibit showed clearly that even our cleverest philosophers will wear a saddle and be ridden by a lady half his age, humiliations in the marketplace. So how will we, lesser mortals, compare when desire numbs our wits to such a hell of shame that we lack the will to even meet the steely gaze of Willem?
Pardon. J'ai été récemment à une expo sur les bouffons et la folie et les fous au Louvre, qui est peut-être encore d'actualité, je ne suis pas sûr. Mais d'un côté, le fou est... Récemment, j'ai été avec mon amour qui m'a emmené voir cette expo. Et à chaque recoin sombre, j'essayais de voler un baiser avec elle. D'un côté, le fou est celui qui porte le masque de l'idiot, mais qui voit clair. De l'autre, il y a les fous qui sont nés tant que tels. et ceux qui n'ont pas l'esprit pour les subtilités, qui voient simplement le monde tel qu'il est. Une des œuvres exposées montrait comment même nos philosophes les plus brillants finissent par porter une selle et se faire chevaucher par une femme 2 fois plus jeune qu'eux. Humiliation sur la place publique, alors nous, pauvres mortels, que pouvons-nous espérer quand le désir nous rend aussi bêtes qu'un démon de la honte, incapable de soutenir le regard d'acier de Willem.
Inspired by fools everywhere, I wrote this next poem for a friend of mine in Paris.
Inspiré par les fous et les bouffons de partout, j'ai écrit ce poème inspiré par un ami à Paris. Et je ne vais pas traduire le poème, parce que je massacre déjà suffisamment le reste de son tour.
It's a bit fast for translation, basically. But it connects to the theme of layers insofar as in your friendships you will, I think, find at some point that you need friendships to consist of more than just someone with a heartbeat. Someone's got to actually show up sometimes. And for me, this took a long time to figure this out. So this one's called The Fool's Love Letter. Man! That's the voice. Man, ain't nobody numbed the fuck out of themselves like you. I had a lot of bromances over the years, and we did some crazy shit like chugging rums and cokes out of a funnel, playing checkers with doubles of tequila, drinking yesterday's beer spilled in an ashtray, but you brought the game to a whole new level, bro. I ain't ever forget those times we were watching wizard movies on your big-ass TV. And the long-bearded motherfucker just saved the little girl because he used his mojo just right, caught the stones about to crush the villagers in a hocus-pocus web, and my eyes would be getting misty since that shit had me moved, and lo and behold, you'd be scrolling on some stupid phone game. The sort of game you delete next week, you know. I always thought it was a sort of magic that you hated your feelings so bad you couldn't even let a wizard reach you. You want to talk about that last episode, I'd say? And you'd be all, nope. Then smoke another pipe, since it had been a good 20 minutes since you ripped the last one. Smell of tobacco and dope still haunting the apartment. Walking out of the room without even pausing, since it didn't matter what we were watching, just so long as you weren't climbing out of that pit you love so bad. Yeah, shit started getting weird after knowing you for 5 years. You figured it was time to start smacking me and punching me in the arm like we was boys again. I tried to tell you it wasn't working. Somehow you twisted the wires up and held up your hands like you was misunderstood. And deep down, I forgave you, since how are you supposed to respect a friend when you can't respect yourself? Brother, nobody cares what a broken clock like me thinks, but I always admired that way you never listened to nobody. Always had some argument lined up how you was doing fine. I always forgave you the way you made mazes instead of just admitting stuff, since you were so good at mazes. Was like watching Gandalf again. I figured you were just playing, that on some level you knew that bringing bags of cheeseburgers to a workout wasn't actually encouraging, that discovering meditation on a run wasn't actually the lightning bolt of enlightenment striking, that stuffing a bacon bun down my throat when I was dieting wasn't actually generosity. So when your girlfriend left and I asked, was it the dishonesty? And you just lifted your eyebrow at me like, what dishonesty? And as if I had just Voldemorted your ass. And then my eyebrow went up too, because I was like, I thought you knew. Fortunately, we had a pipe right there and enough hash to make whatever almost happened not happen. Like I said, man, I ain't never seen anyone race so fast and not feel shit. It's inspiring. Since I took that time away, thanks to the punching, I gotta admit I miss being on that couch, numb from the hair down, wishing I was somewhere else. Dramatic pause to indicate a change of tone.
Pause dramatique pour indiquer un changement.
I wanted to write a piece from the position of the kind of wise fool, a sword that could slice through even Napoleon-level bullshit. I wanted to go back in time and tell my dad that I didn't believe him, and I wasn't going to accept his fists on my skin anymore, and that the bar stool he died on, alone except for the shrieks of topless dancers, was what he deserved. And although this story will eventually turn down a gentler road, for now I must remind you, I am not as kind as Willem. Transition.
Let's keep going.
What happened?
I missed that part, I'm sorry. Pardon-moi, je suis pas assez I apologize. Je suis désolé, je m'excuse. Il me manque une partie.
Not as kind as Willem.
Oui, pas aussi gentil que Willem. If you go slowly again, then I can interpret it.
Are we done now with the game?
No, I just realized I must have missed a section.
Midnight on the Ponton Canal.
Oui, ça c'est bon.
The Christmas lights blinking in the water. My new love is nearly as tall as me, top model, and our mouths taste of salty raclette. The first time I met her, we decorated a tree together with hand-cut paper snowflakes. I hardly knew her name. She's a designer and a tailor, and so dressed in 50 layers, including 2 scarves, 2 jackets, 2 sweaters, 2 gloves, 4 socks, underpants and overpants, overshirt and undershirt, dangling earrings and a necklace, smart, beautiful, and just as charming as Willem.
Parlons d'amour. Il est minuit sur le canal de Pantin, les lumières de Noël clignotent sur l'eau. Ma nouvelle amoureuse est presque aussi grande que moi, c'est une top modèle. Et nos bouches ont le goût salé de la raclette. La première fois que je l'ai rencontrée, on décorait un sapin ensemble avec des flocons de papier découpés à la main. Je connaissais à peine son nom. Elle est designer, styliste, et donc elle était habillée en 50 couches. 2 écharpes, 2 vestes, 2 pulls, 4 gants, 4 chaussures, un sous-pantalon, un sur-pantalon, une chemise dessous, une chemise dessus, des boucles d'oreilles, un pendentif, un collier, intelligente, belle, presque aussi charmante que Willem.
But this is not Shakespeare, not some Tinder cliché of closeness, not some youthful spasm in the garden. Indeed, we're in our 40s, and every year behind us lurks another layer of times we love too hard, or not hard enough. When we danced love well, or danced love badly. When we stood for our principles, or stood on them. When our love was a beautiful temple, or a crater with burnt timbers. When our light filled the darkness between us, or our shadows obscured it. When our hearts were pure and glowing and disciplined, or corrupted by an irresistible Willem.
Mais ce n'est pas du Shakespeare que je suis en train de vous donner. Ce n'est pas non plus un cliché Tinder de proximité et d'amour instantané et gratifiant. On a 40 ans et derrière nous s'empilent toutes les fois où on a trop aimé, pas assez aimé, on s'est fait mal en amour, pas mal. Et donc toutes les danses d'amour, de relations qu'on a soit foirées, soit bien menées. Et toutes les fois où on s'est battu pour nos principes et où les autres fois on les a piétinés. Nos amours, tantôt temples magnifiques, tantôt cratères fumants ou même poutres calcinées. Toutes ces fois où notre lumière a illuminé l'espace entre nous, ou bien nos ombres l'ont avalé. Toutes ces fois où nos cœurs étaient purs et brûlants et disciplinés, ou corrompus par un vilain irrésistible.
So we promised ourselves to take it one layer at a time. Knowing we would fall in love the second our bodies touched, it was hard to know whose heart had been burnt to a worse crisp in the flames of our 20s or the inferno of our 30s. Culture and history says it is her role to flee and be chased, mine to chase. Darling, I said, I have taken the pressure off myself to pressure you. And since we were similarly terrified to hurt ourselves or someone else or each other, we became like angels, like Willem.
Alors on s'est promis d'y aller, couche par couche, étape par étape. On savait qu'on tomberait amoureux dès que nos corps toucheraient. Donc difficile de dire lequel de nous deux avait le cœur le plus enflammé, carbonisé même. Rôti dans les flammes de nos vingtaines ou consumé dans l'enfer de nos trentaines. La culture et l'histoire disent que c'est son rôle à elle de fuir et le mien de poursuivre. Alors je lui ai dit, j'enlève toute la pression, même celle de te mettre pression. Pas de pression. Et puisqu'on était aussi terrifiés, presque apeurés l'un de l'autre, que l'idée de se blesser, de blesser l'autre dans cette relation, ou de blesser quelqu'un d'autre, on est devenus comme des anges, angéliques comme vilaines.
And the clock ticked, and the dates continued. She was particularly charmed by my velvet Santa pants, and we would sleep in literal balls of fabric, at the beginning at least, sweating profusely and proudly shy in our principles that after each date we would only grow 1 centimeter closer. And so we sweat. And so we nibbled the edges of layers, and so we held hands chaste in the dreaming of our pleasure only, and I could tell you the day when the last layer fell to the floor, but I dare not scandalize our dear, sweet Willem.
Donc le temps a filé, les rendez-vous ont continué, on a continué à se voir, et elle était particulièrement séduite par mon pantalon de Père Noël en velours rouge. Et on a dormi ensemble, enroulés dans des tonnes de tissus, littéralement au début même, hein, au moins au début, transpirant de plus en plus comme des damnés, mais respectant le principe qu'on avait. Après chaque rencard, on ne se rapprocherait de l'un de l'autre que de 1 centimètre à la fois. Alors on a transpiré, on a grignoté le bord de chacune des couches et de chacune des espaces qui nous séparaient l'un de l'autre, rêvant seulement, tout en restant chaste, mais rêvant du moment où ça deviendrait plus chaud. Et je pourrais vous raconter le jour où les dernières couches sont tombées au sol, mais je ne voudrais pas scandaliser notre chère Drouville.
She was very proud that my book, Predators, Reapers, and Deadlier Creatures, comes out next month. And I told her it was all about drone warfare and true love. And that I had, in the book, written my own penance. And that if I served my wounds hard enough, one day I would atone. And she asked, "How this?" And "What's that?" And I said, "My love, didn't you know I was a killer? Trauma's very hound. Don't you know how hard it was for me to become a gentleman, a man of peace, a Willem?"
Elle est très fière de mon livre qui sort prochainement, qui s'appelle Predators, Reapers and Deadlier Creatures, qui sort le mois prochain. Mais je lui ai dit que c'était un livre sur la guerre des drones et en même temps sur l'amour, donc le grand amour. Que j'avais écrit ce livre comme une espèce de pénitence, et en pensant que si je servais suffisamment cette pénitence, et que si j'avais porté mes blessures assez longtemps, peut-être qu'un jour elles seraient expiées. Pardon. Elle m'a dit, mais comment ça? Qu'est-ce que tu veux dire? J'ai dit, mais mon amour, ne savais-tu pas que j'étais un tueur, un chien de chasse du trauma? Tu sais pas à quel point c'est difficile pour moi de devenir un gentleman, un homme de paix, comme Vilaine?
I'm very proud to say I wrote a beautiful, challenging book. If anyone here likes the spicy words, please come up to me afterwards, and I can sign you up for a free word gift and hopefully put a copy into your hands in like 3 weeks.
Je suis très fier d'avoir écrit un livre que je trouve à la fois beau et challengeant, quoi, exigeant et difficile. Si jamais vous avez aimé quelques-uns de mes mots, de mes paroles assez épicées, vous pouvez venir me parler après. Je peux vous donner un cadeau en mots et ou vous dire exactement quand le livre sortira.
So once again, we're not going to translate this next piece because there's going to be voices and all sorts of surprising things.
Je vais vous lire une partie de mon roman et cette partie, on ne va pas la traduire, je vais faire des voix, ça va être un peu une performance.
This piece I chose because I think it shows many layers on the level of the text. So if any of you guys out there are into books or into writing and you want to get deeper into this sort of thing, let's have that talk afterwards. Situation: 2 soldiers in Afghanistan. They're drone warriors, basically, and they're in love. But love is forbidden, okay? They're not allowed to be in love. And, significantly, it's Canada Day, because it's a good time to be fiercely Canadian. Ready? You guys mind if I just come down here with you for a minute? Are we cool? Okay. Happy Canada Day, Major. In the evenings, I'd gotten back into her graces, tender in the bunkers, stroking her hair and chasing her pleasure with a stubborn tongue. Thank you, Jones. Happy Canada Day. I wish I could kiss you right now. I wish I could kiss you whenever I liked. Shut up, Jones. You know that's impossible. And keep your voice down. This is not a date. We are 2 professionals attending a concert together. Do you need to repeat the rules? I haven't forgotten the rules. No one can know about us, Jones. Not a single person. But how could I refrain from getting excited on our national holiday? Easier to bottle the sun. Started way back when beavers ran the show. Their tremendous dams built across the St. Lawrence River created the Great Lakes. In those mighty fresh waters, the beavers grew huge and happy, the size of buffalo, but playful, industrious. Sasquatch would ride them into battle, using them as landing craft for beach raids and stowing their spoils in underwater dens. It all went to hell, eventually. But without those beavers, the fashionable hats they made for Europeans, there'd be no Canada. So every year, we gather wearing painted whiskers and large, flat tails. I made up the part about the tails. We worked through all the holidays, and this was no exception. But the main headquarters in Canada, combined with a regiment of volunteers and civil servants, arranged for entertainment. A raft of celebrities. There was a boy band, a chainsaw juggler, a French-Canadian comedian, and a hockey commentator famous for his big mouth and loud jackets. Soldiers crammed helmets on celebrity heads and wrapped the famous torsos in body armor before stuffing them into the belly of a cargo craft, the same harrowing flight the rest of us took to Kandahar, with the lights turned off so we couldn't be targeted with rocket-propelled grenades, knuckles white on the webbing of a cargo net. The hockey buff suit could have made a peacock's feel drab. When the chief guided him into the operations center, we turned our monitors away as if we were jealous children. Killing was candy, and we had no intention of sharing. The boy band? Instantly disliked. I mean, the camp was full of mostly heterosexual dudes, so why not send us a girl band? Plus, I got stuck behind the band and the line at Tim Hortons where I waited for my daily tower of caffeine. It was a long queue, but the lead singer needed to take a selfie with each of the ladies who worked the counter. He flirted with them and probably made their week, but I just wanted the coffee. And those dandies were getting in my way. Not a morning person. Their fame offended me. They were a soft, arty folk who never really bled for their craft. The Major and I joined the entire Canadian contingent at the concert. There were at least 1,000 of us, all wearing our tan pattern uniforms, or at least the tan t-shirt and shorts, and our pistols. The stage and sound system had been hoisted in front of the Canada House bunker where we gathered for the General's fun run, kitty corner from the gym. The logisticians had busted their balls to make sure it was perfect. What I remember were all the things missing once the music started. There was no dancing. There was no singing along. No beach balls, no pot smoke, no frisbees, no young couples gyrating or kissing, no long, loose hair. Just 1,000 soldiers staring grimly at the band, rocking in tune with the music. The grimmest, dourest concert goers in the history of concerts, indeed, in the history of music. The Major and I stood in the middle of the mob, not touching unless we jostled each other, not speaking except polite indifferences, not looking at each other except for glimpses I stole. We were allocated 2 beers a month, which we received from a clerk already opened and had to drink on the spot. I remember how the beer cut through the crust of the poo pond on the tongue, washed it clean, but for some reason, a fridge failure, according to the rumors, there would be no beer this month. This cranked the crustiness of the crowd by another 15%. Of course, the band squirmed under the pressure of our hard eyes. We were an impossible crowd. The Major swayed to and fro, holding her helmet tucked against her breast like a child, her hair tautly bunned. I stood beside her as the band hit its stride and performed their biggest hit. I remember a few lyrics and how it felt to hear them. Ain't it good to be alive? If a genie appeared in that second and offered me a magic carpet ride home, I would have refused. For my lover was mere inches away, the furrow of her forehead eased by pleasure, and we would make love that night, I was sure. It feels so good to breathe the air. No matter the stink of poo pond, the sting of sand, the 50-degree heat, I would take all of it for a hint of lemon. The surprise after kissing to find her vanilla gum in my mouth. I was close enough to smell her, and no one was looking. A pint of beer raised toward a better day. Alas, there is no beer today, you fops, but there is the fleeting feel of knuckles brushing. Happiness only ever lasts for a single second, doesn't it? No matter the hours of craving. She knew it too, and that was why we clutched in bunkers. The gift of love is there for everyone, yes, but such a fragile thing, so easy to squash like a lotus. It exists even for brutes and killers like us. 1,000 loneliness monsters in their cages rocking. Our hands were fully straight, our forearms pressed together, and our fingers rubbing and tangling. Let's find a star a star to call our own. A pair of explosions. The bands glanced around confused as huge glowing orbs rose from the camp into the sky like dual moons. Is it a rocket attack? I yelled in the major's ear. No, that's one of ours. Our biggest artillery piece firing chunks of glittering stars, white phosphorus. We joined hands in the gloom and density of the crowd. Everyone was staring upward. Ain't it good to be alive? Yes, God damn it. The thrill of risk, the rush of defiance, of loving anyway. We held hands as the two moons on their graceful and deadly path arced over our heads, exuding sparks and lighting the sky. What other stars would make sense for us? For one astonishing second, we were almost unashamed. That's about all the sounds I can make from my voice from one day. I was told to say something inspirational to you guys on this theme of layers. And I got to say, it's one thing to write about a beautiful, life-giving love, but it is a very, very difficult or different thing to actually live it and to experience it. So if a guy like me, with everything I've been through, can go and find something like that, then I got to say there is hope for each one of us. Absolute pleasure for me to perform for you today at Creative Mornings and to get to know you guys. And when he's done speaking, please give your most enthusiastic applause for Willem.